What's up, YouTube? I'm going to be running through my knife collection today. This is something that, it's not like a huge knife collection. Obviously, you search YouTube, you'll find tons of, dudes with Pelican cases that have got all kinds of nice $300-$400 folders and up. This is something I just recently got into about over the past year. Something I like doing. It's something I'm proud of. And I've got everything from a $8 Moranev all the way up to a $400 Microtech. So that's about the range I'm working with here. And I'm just going to give you a rundown. Don't know the exact specs on all the blades, but where I do know, I will try to show you what I know about them, what I think these advantages of each particular piece is, and go from there. Anyway, so starting with the fixed blades, I've got these placed into groups, as you can probably see. I got fixed blades up here. I've got folders right here, spring assisted and autos right here, out the front autos over here, Karambit knives up here, and then I got a couple of gravity knives. And there's a little caveat with this brass one, but I'll explain that later. So starting with the fixed blades, this was a gift given to me by my girlfriend. This Condor is the company that makes it. Pretty sure it's 1090. It's full tang blade, wooden handle scales, held with brass pins, and I really like this case. I like the stamp and the little insignia that they have. This is something that you could definitely have that if you're going on like a camping trip. This is something that wouldn't need to be afraid to use this to split logs with. Small ones, of course, but like splitting wood. It's just a survival knife, really. Same way with this Mora. It's a Moranev, Swedish company. I forget what the model of this is, but it's got a G10 plastic handle and a case. And Moranev, they're really good at like value out of the box sharpness. Right off rip, I don't know if you can, well, you can't really see it because the light's not really pointed the right way, but I've got this light up here on my desk, and if you get in a certain spot, it points straight down, and you can look down on the edge of a blade, and you can really tell whether or not there's any kind of rolls. Makes it good for doing visual inspections of edges. This was one of those impulse buys that I got into early on when I first started collecting knives, and I didn't really know about what kind of knives are good or not. Don't get me wrong, I do like this. It's kind of cool. But for what it is, it's a stainless fixed blade. And I don't think it's really that great a stainless either. It's just one of those things where, judging by the price point and the manufacturing quality on a lot of the Smith & Wesson knives, I feel like it's one of those things where they found somebody who produces knives, and they just kind of, sold the rights to put their name and their insignia on it. Whereas other gun manufacturers like Sig Sauer, I think they're a little more selective about what they put their name on. It's the same way with, I'll bounce around a bit. Like this right here, this is one of the autos. This is a Smith & Wesson M&P, and it's a spring assisted, so to say, But it's got this little, I don't know, it's kind of like a Carson flipper, but instead of being a flipper, it's just a slide that assists the blade out, so I guess it's still considered a spring assisted rather than an actual auto. And it's got a nice feature. It's got the little glass breaker on there, and it's got the safety. But it just, I don't know. I had one that I kept as a EDC, or used as an EDC, and it was all right, but I don't know. I just feel like there could be more to it. Going with the folders, this little guy right here, it's called the Jackknife. It's all right. It's a short blade. It's not even about as long as half of my pinky, and it's single-edged, and it's not spring-assisted, and it's a lever lock, and it's a pretty good lever lock too. And the cool thing about that is that wherever you can take a knife, you can most likely take this knife. Some municipalities, some townships, and some states even, they might have laws that say what kind of a knife you can have, what's considered a deadly weapon versus what's considered a tool or a pocket knife. New York is very notorious for not liking gravity knives at all. And with something like this, there's no spring assist, it's only single edge, and it's not very long at all. And it's got a clip where it can be worn so that it is visible from the outside of the pocket, so that it's not being carried in a concealed fashion. I mean, yeah, basically, if you can carry a knife at all in that area, then you can definitely carry this knife. So that's an advantage of this. And also, because it's small, it's, unobtrusive, I would say. It makes for a good gentleman's knife. If you just need something as a letter opener, or just to make small cuts with, or, it's great for that. Keeping with the flippers, this is one that I have EDC'd. As you can tell, some of the Cerakote starting to rub away from this part right here, and there's a few little jagged edges on these VEF serrations here. Apparently these are called VEF serrations. I forget what kind of steel this is. But this is it's a Crkt M16 14 SFG, and it's got this auto locks feature. So it is a liner lock, but you have to depress the auto locks button, and then press the liner lock, and that allows you to close it. It does have a thumb stud. I think it's G10 handle. And as far as flippers go, it's pretty... I didn't really do it there that time, but, you can open this damn near as quickly as a spring-assisted or an auto, or even out the front, and it's got a really reliable feel to it. I've seen this knife get torture tested before. There are some things that you might need to worry about. Apparently, edge retention is great, except for along these VEF serrations. And the reason for that is because, I don't know if you can see here, they're actually zero ground. So you can see where the straight part of the edge is, it's properly apexed. But where you get to these VEF serrations, it's actually a one-sided bevel. And it makes for very high out-of-the-box sharpness, but edge retention just completely goes out the window with this. I don't know if, I guess they're sort of relying on the jaggedness to kind of do the job of serrations. They hold up. I mean, you know, you can cut a can open with it. It'll survive a 2x4 pick test. It is admittedly a really good EDC, and I don't know why I'm hesitant to admit that. Maybe I'm getting a little bit bougie with my tastes, but, you know, this is a knife that I have reliably EDC'd for a while, and it's still held up, and I've only sharpened it once and took it apart, greased the pivot, put it back together, and yeah, it's a pretty great knife. This is M16 14 DSFG, I think. Here, let me check. M16 14D. And like the other one, it also has the auto locks feature, as well as the Carson flipper, but it does not have the double-sided studs. You know, it's compared to that, it's only got the stud on the side where you need the flipper at. It's got a pretty nice, don't know if it's Cerakote, and then I think this one is an aluminum handle. Not sure if it's anodized or not, but... And this one does not have the VEF serrations. The serrations, they are still 0 ground, which, you know, but it's a nice knife. It's definitely more than what most people would need, I think, for an EDC. Keeping with CRKT, there is the CRKT CEO, and this one, it's got a ball bearing pivot. This is kind of like the epitome of what I would call a gentleman's knife. You know, it feels spring assisted, and sometimes if I get it like that, it'll pop open. But it's kind of awkward to do one-handed, I've noticed. I don't know if it's just... Oh, okay, well I got it that time. But sometimes I feel like this is just not exactly reliable as far as opening it one-handed. I do like that pattern on the handle. And this definitely is what you would call a gentleman's knife. I already went over this guy. Now this, not exactly sure what the make and model of this is. Obviously, it's modeled to look like probably trying to look like one of the Joe Campanelli Italian style stiletto switchblades. It's not, though. Not sure who made it. Picked this up at an antique store, actually. You know, it's got a safety. And feels like the spring is kind of weak, you know, but I mean, this edge is ridiculously sharp, though. And quite a point on it. Not sure how I feel about that. I mean, it's pretty sturdy, but there's a little bit of play, left and right play. And then to close it, you depress that right there. And it just goes back like that. Let's move on to the Karambits. So this first one is a Boker Wildcat. And I really like this blade. You know, it's a Karambit, but it's not like traditional hawkbill kind of Karambit. It's kind of got like, goes to a hawkbill, then almost, what would you, I guess like a Bowie knife. It's like a Karambowie? I don't know. D2 tool steel blade. And, you know, the finger hole, it holds pretty well. You could definitely use that as basher. And holding it this way, not sure that I would actually rely on the finger hole while holding it this way. I think I'd probably feel more comfortable holding it this way if I was holding it in this orientation versus holding it like a karambit. You know, you can do the karambit flip, the thumb stop. A lot of guys, they'll flip it back to catch it. I really don't like to do that. I like to, if I have to, flip it out and then reach over and grab. I feel like that's a safer, you know, and there's only really a handful of times when this grip will ever be necessary. Like if you're using karambit, what do they call that? As a, you know, it's like when you're whacking a flail. When you're using it as a flail to give you like this much more reach, you know, it's a lever lock. And really like the way this thing looks, you know, and with the way that the pocket clip is, goes into your right pocket if you're right-handed, and you can just reach right in, pull it out. Now the only thing that kind of sucks about this is that the opening mechanism, it's kind of like a flipper. So when you're holding it like standard, works great. But if you pull the knife from your pocket, holding it as a karambit, then there's not really, I don't know, it's kind of hard to get it. It's almost like you would have to get it and then hold it as a karambit. Seems like the safer, quicker way to get it into your hand. And for that reason, I'm not entirely, like, it's a great knife, but I'm not sure that it's that great of a karambit. Now, as compared to this guy right here, this is Fox 599 karambit. This thing is great. So it does have the flipper, but on this one, the flipper doesn't work so great. But it does have an Emerson wave. This will also clip to the inside of your pocket. And if you're right-handed, then it works great. If you're left-handed, it has these 3 holes here where you can switch the clip over to the other side. And I'll try to get a demonstration in here. But basically, so you have your pocket, you know, you have the knife yourself, and this little Emerson wave is going to hook on the inside of your pocket, and it just pops out just like that. Now, whether you have this in your hand already, or whether you've got this clipped inside of your pocket and you simply reach in, grab the finger hole with the index finger, pull it out this way, it's clipping on the inside of your pocket, it opens, and then you can grab. And, you know, obviously if you're holding it like a flail, that Emerson wave becomes a really destructive, sharp little point that's kind of nasty. This was another one of those antique store buys. I don't know why it caught my eye, but it just did. It's Fixed Blade Karambit, RJ Knives Company. And I don't know, I just kind of like it. It's not very sharp at all. In fact, it's completely not sharp. In fact, it's so dull you could basically use this as a trainer. Except for that point right there. I'd be a little worried about that point. But I grabbed this just because it was interesting. You know, looks like one of those pieces. It's kind of, belongs on a shelf somewhere. I grabbed it. Now, as far as the tactical karambits go, it's a toss-up as to which one's best, quote unquote. But this is the it's made by CRKT, Cricket, whatever you want to call them, and it is the Provoke. They call it their Kinematic Karambit. It comes with this case. It's a hard plastic case, and it has a dots system style clip. And so you can put that on your belt. You can put that on the strap of a backpack, put it on a plate carrier. Very tactical. Some would say tactical, but, you know, it actually, you know, it's not just about how it looks, like it actually is quite functional. The opening mechanism for this is one of the safest and most secure that I've encountered for any kind of a folding knife anywhere. It's got this jimping right here on the back of the blade, which is D2 tool steel, and the frame and the components of the frame are made out of T6060 aluminum. And so, I mean, and then it's a liner lock, but it's this kind of liner lock. It's a very thick liner lock, and that thing, I just do not see it coming apart, even if you were stabbing into something. If you don't want to use this case, there is also a clip on the back here. This clip lets you clip it onto the inside of a pocket. But this is a really great knife. This is the first responder edition, and it's got that little ceramic bead right there at the tip. It's a glass breaker. You know, I imagine if you were a paramedic, you could break some glass, open this, cut the seatbelt, and then, you know, if you were working like a rescue team or something, you know, getting somebody out of a car wreck. And it's got a really big finger hole, and with how much of it fits in your palm, even if you don't open this still, I mean, it's still a deadly weapon, you know, because really anything other than your fists is a deadly weapon. But still, though, I mean, that's just ridiculous, you know. Cut with it, you can do all the karambit controls and everything, and I don't know if anybody knows anything about Pencak, Salat, or Kali, or any of the fighting styles that use the karambit knife, but I imagine somebody who is skilled would be able to make great use of this. So moving along to what I've classified as my gravity knives, not really. You could kind of argue whether or not these are gravity knives. I'm actually going to start with this one over here. So this is another one of those antique store buys. And this is something that I basically would just call like the most ridiculous bally song that I've ever owned. It's like a cross between a bally song and a K-bar knife. And, well, I guess it's more of a cross between a balisong and a trench knife, because it has the brass knuckles, you know, which I really would not trust that. You know, it just does not seem very sturdy, but it is something that's kind of cool, you know, and it's something that, you know, these pins right here, they probably need to get tightened up. There's this thumb stud here. Not really sure. Not really sure what, yeah. Just kind of grab this and whatever. This right here, this is made by Paragon, or Asheville Steel, and it's called the Warlock. And this, I guess it's a gravity knife. Kind of more of like a centrifugal knife. And the way that this works is is, so you've got these two buttons. One you press with your thumb, one you press with your index finger. And let's see if I can get this to focus. When you press these two together, it splits open the handle, and then the blade just kind of falls out, or you can kind of swing it into position and then let go, and it'll lock it in place. And it holds it in place pretty decently. The only thing that kind of sucks about it, though, is that you can feel a little bit of play wibble wobble at the pommel end here. I wouldn't really call that a pommel, but you know, it is neat though. I got this as basically just a really expensive fidget spinner. But it's fun. I like it. Alright, so now moving on to the out the front autos. And as you can see, all of them except for this one are, well, you know. So this is a Boker Kalashnikov. It's a double-edged dagger style. Out the front, plastic handle. It is a dual action, so it retracts via spring action. It's got a pretty decent clip. And this is fairly solid. This is like, you know, I used to be pretty dubious about out the front autos because, simply put, the more mechanisms that there are, more likely it is that something could break. But, you know, this one I could actually see working as a reliable EDC. This is a Microtech Ultratech, and this one I actually do EDC. In fact, this is my current EDC. It's got a stonewashed blade. The blade material, get it to focus, is Boker M390. And it's got that nice stonewash finish. The red, I think, is kind of funny because with the sort of squarish shape of these and the fact that it's red, it's almost like the Victorinox Swiss Army knives. It's out the front. This is specifically this a Microtech Ultratech. I have another Microtech Ultratech, this time in black, and instead of having a stonewashed blade, it has a satin finish on the blade on this one. Also made from Boker M390. And I love these knives. I really, you know, yeah, you can accuse me of being a Microtech fanboy, but I mean, there's a reason for it. There's just a lot of machining that goes into these. They're American made. And if you know anything about how Boker M390 steel is made, apparently they have like a nozzle that shoots molten metal, and that fine mist of molten metal solidifies into a powder, which they then mix with other powdered metals, and then they add just the right amount of flux and forge weld it all together. And by having such small pieces of metal all be forge welded together under high heat and extremely high pressure, it creates an extremely fine grain structure. This is an Ultratech 2, and really the only difference between the Ultratechs and the Ultratech 2s seems to be just this texture on the handle and also the price point, you know. But I had to get one, you know, and then I had to get another one. Let me see if I can get this to focus. There we go. And I really do like this. I mean, double-edged dagger, dual action out the front. I mean, that's, you know, and it's actually reliable enough to EDC. Yeah. Yeah, Microtech makes some pretty damn good knives. This one's also an Ultratech too. And this one, it is double-edged, but it is what you would call a bayonet style. So it's the edge on this side, get it to focus here, the bottom edge runs the entire length of the blade. The top edge only runs to about right here, and then you can see what it does there. And so it's got a little more meat on it. Not really sure if that relates to higher toughness. Probably does. And it's got this green with black hardware. And these are both of these are Microtech Signature Series. Both of my Ultratech 2s. And, you know, really like them. But anyway, there it is. That's my knife collection in a nutshell.